Okay, anything anyone wants to share? If not, I want to chat about Ryan for just a second.
Well, my deal is has not fallen through yet. I mean, we've been in negotiation back and forth because the land has this, what do you call it, a natural swell.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah.
Well, every day you're learning something, isn't that right?
Holy moly, yes.
All right, Dustin's in the
I
waiting
have
room, but
never negotiated, but I'm doing it.
well, you're learning, and remember, the more you learn about your circumstances and who's got kind of the power or whatever, the right to kind of the control or the upper hand, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
then we get a much better understanding of how to behave and how to negotiate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because you can't act like you can control everything if you're completely up against the wall, right? You gotta allow the others to win a couple points, so you can get the ones that are most important to you. All right, I want to just share something really, really quickly about Ryan. So can you share, Ryan, what the experience was like of getting some kind of critique on your, actually, let me go ahead and let him in. What was your feeling about getting the kind of the commentary, the critique a little bit about the GPS? Did that help you in terms of kind of your processing of your plan and adding some details?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I just gone over it with Candace too, and she'd given me some feedback and some notes, some of it similar to what you said too. And it was just, being more specific and more, thinking about it in greater detail about how to accomplish the things, not just like what you want to do, but how and how much and how often.
Exactly.
Make a plan.
When I'm looking at somebody's GPS, I'm looking for two primary things. One is if it's an activity that is essentially just a project, then you need a deadline for the project, right? I will update my database and tag it properly by this day, right? If you say, I'm going to use calling expireds as a way to generate business, then that's a repetitive task that you're going to do each and every day. So there needs to be some kind of metric that tells you that you're winning, right? I will speak to 20 expireds today, or I will add 4 of them to my database, or I will send, I will go on 2 appointments a week and send handwritten notes to them, or something like that, right? There needs to be some kind of measurement of whether you're on track or not. So it's either project with a deadline or a measurement of your success if it's a repetitive task. So just a quick note before we get to Dustin is if you are in the process of kind of organizing some of those thoughts and you'd like somebody to look at your GPS and kind of give some commentary on it and make it more specific and a better tool for you to use in the year ahead, please let us know. I can look at it, Candace can look at it, we both can look at it, and we'd be happy to do so. So I want to welcome Dustin Kimberley today. Thank you so much for being here. We have originally had a negotiation class scheduled for today, but when we got news that you were able to attend, we moved that. So maybe you can give us one of your favorite negotiation tactics before you leave us today. But I just want to quickly introduce you, and then I'll give you the floor. So I got to know Dustin pretty much right as he was coming to Keller Williams, and he's had an enormous amount of success prior to being here and being here both in real estate sales businesses and other ventures as well. And I want to, Dustin, I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of share your story a little bit, but one of the things that's most impressed me about Dustin is that just the quality and the size of his thinking, right? And there's no coincidence that the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, for example, starts off by thinking $1 million and then all the other stuff, right? And there's no coincidence that he was in the bold room, even though he certainly knows how to sell real estate, right? There's no coincidence that he is, I can't remember the exact number, but you're at one point, I think you were talking about 5 figures payments to real estate coaches or several real estate coaches,
Oh, for sure.
getting on planes to go and meet people and shadow people that you admired and that were running businesses that you wanted to learn more about. And you definitely embrace the coachability and the willingness to constantly learn and to kind of push the boundaries of what a real estate agent can do as they're growing their primary business and ancillary businesses and these kind of things. So just to give you a rough idea, we have mostly, I'd say, agents that are on the call today that are relatively new, a year or so in the business, maybe a little bit more than that. And they're faced with a lot of the things that you would expect an agent like that to be faced with, right? Hey, you got all these resources, all these videos, all these script books, all the stuff that you can go absorb. And then there's where you put your commission check when you have one, right? And there's no shortage of training and coaching and resources. The biggest challenge oftentimes is making sense of it all and then being able to prioritize what happens and in what order, and how do we balance family and all these kind of things. I know you do a lot of remote work, so I just love for you to share a little bit about your story, and then I'll kind of guide you a little bit with some questions. But what I'm hoping the folks on the call today leave with is just some not only some inspiration, but also some implementation or some integration, right? How can we take some of these vast ideas and make them kind of primary in their day-to-day activities so that they're constantly moving forward?
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Bill. Candace, thank you guys for having me. Ryan, I see you out there, some familiar faces out there. So it's good to see everybody. I wanted to show everybody this. Can I screen share?
Yeah, give me one sec. All right, you're good.
So this is completely irrelevant, but I am human. So this was really funny. Has anybody ever seen that Instagram page, like where it's about funny agents? I figure you guys would like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I always like to break the ice, right, on what we're trying to do here, guys. So, my name's Dustin. I'm the founder of the Team Kimberley Real Estate Group. I also own Home Park Property Management. I also own Home Park Partners. I also own McMillan Partners. And we recently launched a new company called We Buy Atlanta House. We're going to be rebranding that as well into something else. So I started in 2013 out of college. I knew that my dad, born and raised in West Georgia, out in Douglasville near Carrollton. My family's originally from Atlanta, but we migrated out there. My story was much like y'all's. I mean, I went to college and I did play college baseball, which I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to play college baseball at a private school in North Georgia called Reinhardt University. God only knows I couldn't have afforded it without that. And I got hurt in my third year. I moved to Georgia State to graduate, and that was kind of all she wrote. When I was in college, I realized that I had a big mind and a big vision, and I was always asking questions. I remember in college, I used to always get in trouble by coaches because I would always ask the question, why? Like, why are we running this play? And then they used to get so mad at me. But I was seeking to understand. One of our Y2D4FR.
Yeah. We're mixing up DTD2 and Y4C2Ts. Right?
There it is, right? I'm still getting the culture, guys. I'm still getting the culture, which is important. So I did not graduate from college. I decided whenever I was finishing up college, I got a job at the Capital City Club as a server. And after that, I got a job. I decided in college I was going to be thinking big. So I asked myself, I said, what's the best way to get there, right? It's going to take money to fund a big life. How do I get there? Well, I said, what are the two biggest things that you can sell? Well, one was real estate and the other one was jets. So jets was a little harder to get into. I did research on that. Houses seemed to be the lowest barrier of entry. So in 2013, I went to work for somebody and I worked for them for 2 years or 3 years. I door knocked for 3 years straight. So that's what I did. Within the second year, I had started to build a team around me. So I had a team of 5 that I was leading every day. and I ran a professional door knocking team. I mean, that's what we did. Over the course of those 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I did 31 transactions, all over, equating to about $50 to $60 million. So it was very high end, new construction development stuff.
Just to give people context, you were basically the leader of a team that was looking for essentially some of the smaller homes in Brookhaven that ultimately
That's
were
right.
torn down, and then they built the $1 million plus properties.
Yeah, so our charge was when our team leader found a buyer that wanted to build a custom home, our charge was to go out and find the lot that fit the budget, it fit the width, the depth, and the topography. So our job was to go out, find 10 to 15 options for that one client, come back, that client determines which of the 3 they like. We would put a contract on those 3, and then the building package would be built around that. So yeah, I started out basically door knocking. After about 3 years, I realized that a paycheck is a leash that helps you give up on your dreams. And so I made the launch in my first quarter. All my experience had been in, luxury buyers. I had done a lot of lotting, right? Door knocking, but all my experience had been with relationships with higher end consumers. But I was 23 at the time. So it's like, who's going to take me seriously at 23, selling $3 million houses. So I said, my dreams are bigger than my problems. So how can I make this work? I don't care what the path looks like. I'm going to get there. So I identified Snellville, Gwinnett County. By the way, at the time, I'm living in the Virginia Highlands. And no, I was living in West Midtown at the time in a house that my grandmother had left to my father. And I agreed to renovate it while I lived there for free, as long as I renovated on my own dollar. Well, long story short on that, I broke out, and in my first quarter, I decided that I would do whatever I needed to. And I didn't have a database. So naturally, I started with expireds and withdrawals. That's all I did. I called expireds and withdrawals for 3 years straight. I was on the phones from 7:30. I was role playing from 7:30 to 8. 8 to 11:30, I was prospecting. I would lead follow up from 11:30 to 12. From 12 to 12:30, I would take a lunch. From 12:30 to 1:30, I would do admin, and I would have listing appointments every day at 2:30 and 4:30. And that was my schedule for about 3 years. I logged just over 33,000 contacts before my company kind of created escape velocity. To give you guys an idea of the success around that, in the first quarter after being off that team, I did 27 transactions in 3 months. The following year, I did 68. I was learning more organization and administrative stuff. I'm not sure I slept in that fourth quarter when I broke out off that team. 27 deals in 3 months after not handling any administration was, wild ride. For about 5 years, I hovered in that 55 to 75 range. I never really could break that 20 to 25 million mark. It just kept hitting that ceiling and that ceiling. And, what I realized is that somewhere along the lines, I had given up on my thinking big in an effort to make a small amount of money. And so I say that tongue in cheek, but my vision always was to do something really, really big. And so I realized that I was chasing dreams, making $500,000 or $600,000 a year. And that part of the reason I wasn't getting where I wanted to go was because my thinking had come down to the level, right, of what I was going after. So I had to expand my vision, expand my thinking. And then from there, fast forward, 2021, we'll end up with 5 companies. 2 of them will take losses. 1 will do just over 500,000 in profit. Another one did 1.15 million in profit. And we just launched a company that has an expectation to get to between 1.8 to 2.1 million dollars in 18 months in profit.
So, okay. So like Gary says, sometimes when you think big, the next step is to act small, right? So think big and then go and try to find that lead domino and start knocking them down with your team, right?
Yeah.
So as you guys would probably imagine, I'm going to take an opportunity to highlight that Dustin knows his numbers. right?
Yeah.
Can you speak to the importance of that, please?
Guys, so I'm going to take it in 2 steps here, right? So when I started evolving more into the CEO role and out of production, it was like learning how to ride a bike again. Selling is not leading and leading is not selling, and they're 2 different things. And I took it from the approach of, if I was an agent, who would I want as a leader? But that was the wrong way to look at it from a perspective of leadership, because there's things that I needed as a leader that as a salesperson, I might not have been interested in doing, but it was just different personality. So I'm going to bring this back to reporting. Every single week on Monday at 9 a.m., I get a report from every department of every company that I own at 9 a.m. sharp. I tell all of them, that's not your job to get up on Mondays and send it out at 8 o'clock or get it done and freak out on Sunday. Have it done by Friday at 4:30. I'm okay with the trailing numbers, right? Put it on auto send. And then guess what? Monday morning, it immediately goes out. Now you might be asking, like, why do we need these reports? Guys, the path is in the math. 100%. If there's one thing, Gary talks about the one thing, and he who chases 2 rabbits, right, catches none. And if there's one thing that you could do every day, one thing that you could do every day to ensure success, and no matter what you're doing, what venture you're doing, what opportunity you're doing, is tracking your numbers. They tell a story. And even if you're not making those 20 or 30 contacts a day, you know what? Write down the 10. It's all about awareness. Anybody ever wonder on the call why we lose weight when we start weighing ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
See, the idea is that we're all out there as agents, right? We're all out there driving and being, driven towards ambition and success of losing weight, because it's easy to understand, of losing weight, but none of us are willing to stand on the scale every morning, right? And the reason I use that as an example is because it's something that we can understand. How do you know how much weight that you need to lose? Well, it could be a combination of things, but you're probably looking at numbers on what the doctor says is healthy for your size and age, right? So it all comes down to how often are you checking in? And I'll address, as an agent, when I was in y'all's seat, one of the biggest fears of tracking was that I was tracking nothing, right? That day came and I didn't make any contacts that day. So I felt guilty. So then I was like, screw it. I'm not tracking my zeros. But guys, don't forget, tracking is success in itself. The results will come as a foundation and as a lag meter of tracking. But if you go through a month of no calls and you report on zeros, guess what? No one's upset. Congratulations on tracking.
Yeah, now you're aware.
Now you're aware. And then we can look at your schedule. Then we can look at your output, right? And then we can change it, because as the bold law is if it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist.
Right.
So there's nothing more important, guys. The first 3 years outside of being on a team, and even on the team, I knew how many doors it took us to get a deal. I had to tell my team, hey, listen, we have this order. We need this lot. I need you guys to go knock on, 482 doors. And they're like, well, 482 doors, what do you mean? I said, well, I know that 482 doors will produce 5 opportunities for our clients. Let me know when you're done with 482.
Right.
See, and the reason why I got so addicted to tracking the numbers at all times is because someone once told me this, and I'll never forget it. And he said, Dustin, if you could take all of the risk, and if you could take all of the sales out of sales, would you want to know about that? And I said, well, yeah. He goes, track your numbers. The moment you know how much you make per contact. So I used to do this for years. You guys will love this, right? I used to print out my calendar, and at the bottom of it, I would put what my goal was for the year income-wise. I wasn't worried about appointments. I wasn't worried about listings. I wasn't worried about conversions. I was worried about contacts. And so what I would do, Bill, Ryan, Michael, Markia, am I saying that right, Markia?
Yeah.
Right. So what I would do is I would say, okay, if I want to make $100,000 this year and I'm willing to work 240 days, which is the average working days in a year, given weekends off, 2 weeks vacation, and 2 weeks of sick days. The average agent works around 189 to to 201, even though we think we work more. But if you're trying to make $100,000 and you're working 240 days a year, you got to make $416 a day. Break it down to the day. Well, if your average sales price is 300 and it takes you 30 contacts to get there, then you're getting paid $30 a contact. So that means you've got to make 13.86 contacts a day. Now, here's the beautiful thing about it. You have to have blind faith. So every day I would say, okay, I need to make 13.86 contacts today. I didn't worry about the appointments. I didn't worry about the conversions. I didn't worry about the commissions or the sales or the customers or the everything else going on in my life. I knew that if I just did that, and at the bottom of it, I would write how much I made that day. Now, here's the fun thing. When you start this exercise, you'll do more than the 13.86.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're like, wait a minute, I get $30 every time. The way I envision it is this, right? Michael, and you're the one that's on my screen, so I'm going to address you here, okay? If I'm standing next to you, okay, and would we both agree that prospecting is not easy? We'd agree with that, right? So let's reverse it. If I'm standing behind you and you're making contacts, and every time you make a contact, I've got a stack. I've got $10,000 of $100 bills. And every time you make a contact, a warm body gets on that phone. We're not talking about someone that owns real estate. We're not talking about a decision maker. That's a more quality approach later on. We're talking about if you're brand new, you should be looking for wrong numbers. Who cares? Get someone on the phone. And every time you do that, Michael, I do this. Here's $100. Here's $100. Here's $100. Here's $100. Would you stop, Michael?
No, I'd be making calls all day.
What's
your
the
job.
difference?
That's your job. Yeah, I actually have calculated that exact approach, Dustin, and to net about 100 grand, you take 2 listings a month, and you're going to speak to 8 people per day.
8
warm
people.
bodies. And every time you talk to another human being, it's $74 worth of income.
Think about that, guys. Stop looking at your world. And again, I want to address some thinking bigs here, but from a tracking numbers standpoint, stop thinking of your world in dollars and cents and start looking at it in contacts.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's pivot for a second.
Okay.
Talk to me a little bit about your commitment to learning. How do you spend your time kind of soaking in all the things that you're learning, and how do you make certain that happens every single day?
So one of my mentors once came to me and told me, as a kid growing up, I didn't like reading, but I was very competitive. I didn't really start enjoying reading until college. And even then I was so driven, I might've gotten better at audiobooks or something like that. But a guy once asked me, and I always, most of my breakthroughs, most of my, the successes that I've had have come from ahas from people in bigger rooms asking me questions. And he asked me one day, he said, Dustin, if I could give you 70, 80 years of wisdom and experience in 6 hours, all right? Think exponentially, guys. If I could cram 60 years in 6 hours, and if we both agreed that our success is determined by if we're learning, we're earning, would you want to know about that? And I'm like, who wouldn't? Of course. A smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others. And I said, yes. He goes, read a book about other people that have done it. And it was so simple, but yet so profound for me. And I don't know why it was, and it stuck to me to this day. And ever since then, I have been obsessed with reading. So on average, I read between 4 to 5 books a month physically. And then I also listen to between 2 to 2.5 hours of audiobooks a day on top of that. I have a call every single morning with one of my big mentors, mastermind guys. We talk 30 minutes a day on macroeconomics. We're just obsessed with ideas, coming up with, we always talk on the way to our offices to manage our companies and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I've always been obsessed with learning.
What's this is kind of a cheesy question, but What's one of the books that stands out for you?
Right now it's Who Not How. I mean, that has accelerated my growth from a company management and from an exponential level. It's allowed my level of thinking to get way bigger, all because it stopped being about the how and it all came down to the who.
What we generally find is that you gotta build it to a certain point, and then your quality of life is being threatened, or the quality of the consumer experience is being, challenged or threatened. And then at that exact moment, you need help. But all along, if you're not improving your leadership skills and you're not building yourself up where the right talented person would want to come and hang out with you,
right,
you're not going to attract that type of talented person.
Right.
So how are you how did you develop those skills, and how are you encouraging your team to develop those skills?
I think the short answer to that is it all comes back to selfless giving. We're and it's really hard when you're working to keep the lights on, when you're working to get that business started, right? And whatever, at the beginning, it's hard. It's hard to think about anything other than the contact, because the contact then evolves into, what if I don't do that? What if I can't pay you're calculating your savings, you're dividing your savings up by how much, it's like this constant race in your mind. And so it wasn't until I got to a point of something called selfless giving. And what does that mean? Has anybody ever on the call ever done something for someone that thinks bigger, does bigger, is bigger, with zero expectation for financial compensation? That's when my world really started taking off. Like, for example, I've probably transacted this year $10-ish million for free. Yeah, for free. Because these are people in the rooms that I want to be in. So how do I get in those rooms? I take care of it. Don't worry about it, right? And those rooms are growing on those rooms, right? It could be something as simple as you talk to someone and they're trying to achieve success in something they're trying to do, and you help them do that. Does that make sense? Like, someone's trying to plant a tree in their front yard. So you call your landscaper that you do a ton of business with and say, hey, man, I need a favor. I'm sending you a lot of business. I need you to call this person. I need you to give them that tree, and I need you to do it all for free and tell them what's on the house. But here's the big thing about it, is you never let the individual know what you did. It's not about getting credit. So when I moved towards selfless giving, that's when I really felt like my world really started expanding.
So all these the recipient is getting this thing, whatever they're receiving, or they're getting the help, yet they have no idea it was you. No.
Oftentimes not, because what happens is we have something called the norm of reciprocity. And the norm of reciprocity says that we give as humans, and we can't fight this, guys. We can say we're altruistic on every level, but at the end of the day, our genetic code all the way down to its cells is about surviving. It is. So we give, and the norm of reciprocity says that our intentions to give is to get. So the idea is that how can you break that pattern? So when we give, then we give in the face of someone knowing, so we can get credit for the thank you. I gave Bill a book so that Bill would say, thank you, Dustin, for that book. Our genetic code said I gave that book because I wanted to thank you, not because I wanted to give Bill that book. And what happens is when you move to selfless giving where they don't know, you break that pattern.
And the pattern is essentially, I'm trying to put it into slightly different words. Like, what do you, my instinct is to say, what do you get? But I guess I'm proving your point. What you've kind of put out into the world is that it's almost like the pay it forward concept, right?
Well, and the idea is that if we're constant, all right, I'll give you guys a great example. All right. I got a room that I've been wanting to be in for a while. He's a good friend. I've probably outgrown his rooms, but I have so many questions for him. I really needed to get in his world. So we had an opportunity that came up. We got a referral from Andy for a 184 unit apartment complex that needed to be managed. I own a property management company and we were growing. We were at 43 units. I told the world what my goals were for the property management group, and shocker, the first referral comes from Andy. It's crazy how that works, right? So anyways, long story short, they come to me and they say, you clearly have experience with apartment investing, property management, resale. You have the whole package. Can your team also help us spear the contracting quote? It's 184 units, guys. That's a $10 million contractor project. There's $3 million in profit. That's a big opportunity. So I call the guy I've been trying to get in the room with. He has a 1,000 unit property management company, and I haven't been able to get behind that line with him because I didn't have anything to offer. Now think about this for a second, guys. I called him and I said, I need you to sit on these next 3 or 4 conference calls with me. So he did. He had his company bid it out. They bid it out, right? We went through calls. On Monday, or not yesterday, but on Friday of last week, they said, okay, guys, you have the bid. All right, we need to send over contracts. We'll start off with a $5 million installment. You guys will burn through that, right? Take us 18 months to delivery. And he said, all right, well, Dustin will send the paperwork over. I called him and I said, hey, I'd like for you to send this over in your name. I said, this is yours. He goes, what? I go, yep, it's your project. I said, I don't have a renovation business. This whole time I never had one, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. He goes, you realize you're handing me like $3 million in profit, right? I said, well, number one, I'm not the best person to service it. That's the first thing. I'm not the best person to service it. So ideally, I would be doing it justice. Number two, I don't have a renovation company. And number three, I have a lot of questions. So this is going to cost you some time and some lunch and some dinners. And he started laughing and stuff like that. But it's like, one might look at that and say, oh my God, I got to figure out a way to keep that $3 million. But to be honest with you, it didn't really cost me anything other than a few conference calls. Later that day, I found out he also got the property management contract on it for 184 units for a 5-year contract. Now, do you think that guy is going to pick up the phone when I call now? Do you think that guy is going to put me in rooms that he's in above me? I just bought 5 different levels of rooms.
The first thing that's coming to my mind is the concept of the infinite game. Have you read that book?
Not yet. I will now. I'm going to write that down.
The Infinite Game is by Simon Sinek. And it's basically saying, like, so many of us are fighting or are working so hard to hit these like arbitrary, like, time measurements, right? I need to get this done before this date. When in fact, you're playing the infinite game. You're building relationships. You'll make some money now, you'll make some money later, right? You're pretty, I think I'm taking a risk here, but I think you're pretty much out of survival mode, right?
Yes.
And now you are building the platform, the network, the community where you're going to have ideas for the rest of your life. And the next thing you're going to think about is which part of my community is going to be best to serve this.
Right.
And you are, in other words, you're playing the infinite game. Right.
Last night I wrote this to, so yesterday we had, if you guys don't mind, are you okay with me sharing our sales from yesterday, Bill?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So yesterday we had the biggest day in the residential real estate team's career. Yesterday, Team Kimberley brought in $321,000 in profit wired to our company account one day. Closings, guys. This wasn't contracts, listings, or pendings. One day of closings. All right.
Profit?
And that was profit.
Okay, so that's probably 30 to 40% of the total gross.
Well, I own one of the apartments we sold, but I feed on it. I profited on it, right? And the other sale was a person that I helped buy a 3.5. So I was the agent on the COS. So, it's not rolled up as much as it should be.
Regardless, congratulations. And if I had made that kind of money in one day, I probably wouldn't have shown up to the 8:30 call to help out a friend.
I'll do it better. The biggest thing of yesterday wasn't that day. It wasn't the closings. At 3:00, we had our fourth interview with one of the largest hedge funds in the United States of America. And they are looking for us to build out a pre-MLS, Bill, we talked about this, a pre-MLS deal funnel for their hedge fund. They buy 2,500 homes a month. Now I'll let that sink in for a second. That's 2,500 homes a month. That's 30,000 homes a year, guys. I don't know about you, but I'm not selling 30,000 homes a year yet. We got to the fourth interview process. We got all the way to the VP of strategy. And we officially signed our NDAs yesterday for them to let us into what they're looking for. Guys, that is a $15 to $20 million a year profitable business that is possible within the next 36 months. See, for me, once I've gotten somewhere, I'm already 3 steps ahead of the thinking. So what happened after those closings in that call? I immediately left and went and had drinks, and we started strategizing on how to roll out the new company. Now, most of us would go out and celebrate for weeks, right? Woo, you know, great money. But the reality is that the real estate team's capital funds other big businesses to grow into so that we can provide more resources to one customer base.
Okay, so that's huge thinking, right? And that is going to, I'd like to bring you on a call in the future to talk about kind of best practices on how to make adjustments and how to be able to pivot and what to pivot to in order to be competitive in the years ahead, right? We talked offline about some of that stuff. But how does an agent that is just getting in the business right now or a year ago, what are they supposed to do? I mean, outside of tracking their numbers and learning and reading and, you know, trying to, you know, selfless give and you know, be nice guys and stuff, like, what are they supposed to do on a daily basis? What would you recommend?
Well, guys, it starts with your schedule. I mean, there's nothing more important. Bob Iger, who grew Disney from, you know, small to wacko huge, right? Great book, Ride of a Lifetime. I challenge everybody to read it. One of my favorite books. I read it in one sitting. It's called Ride of a Lifetime. Actually looking at it. Unbelievable book. Read it a dozen times. By the way, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, even he gets call reluctance. How about that? He made a cold call to Steve Jobs. And in the book, it was so funny. He goes, Steve didn't answer. So he went, whew, gosh, glad it. Then Steve calls back. He's like, this is CEO of Disney, afraid to call Steve Jobs. Like, we're all human. You know what I'm saying? And Steve answers, and Bob goes, hey, Steve, I'd like to buy Pixar. Now, Pixar had a terrible relationship with the previous CEO of Disney, like to a point where they hated each other. And when Bob took over, that was one of his initiatives. And that was one of his 3 initiatives. And he knew that Steve hated Disney because of it, but they were building out their digital side. And Steve goes, yeah, let's meet next week. Click. Think about that, right? So my point behind that is that when it comes to the building blocks of what you're doing, the schedule, guys, we either build it or buy it, okay? As you get bigger, you have more capital. You can do one of 2 things in any type of opportunity. You can either build it or you can buy it.
It's
So
very similar to the concept that I talk about. You can either use your time for something or you can use your money for something. Yeah,
that's right. So for example, right, the most important thing for a new agent at this point should be your schedule. There should be nothing more important than that schedule. That schedule is a success indicator. The contacts that come out of that schedule is a success indicator. But guys, if you don't control your time, you don't control your life. So you've got to control that schedule. And even if you're only going to prospect for an hour a day, put it in there and stick to that schedule. Measure your success on how many of those blocks you hit. And at the bottom, give yourself a grade every day. Did you go to lunch at noon on time? Did you leave the office at the same time? Guys, starting work ending work at the same time is just as important as starting work at the same time. Does that make sense?
What is, okay, so on the theme of calendaring and managing your schedule and optimizing it, et cetera, how do you recognize what is an opportunity and how do you recognize what is a distraction?
Incoming producing activities is what we define as an opportunity. Income servicing activities we call a distraction. Now I'm going to break that down for you guys, because servicing a transaction is in fact, right, part of the real estate game. However, it is still a distraction. There are other people that are more qualified to do that than you. From the very first day, if you are an agent on this call, I don't care if you've done 0 deals. If you're not using a contract coordinator, a transaction coordinator from a third party, you are behind the 8 ball. You do not have to hire staff. You do not have to hire admin. They only get paid when it closes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no risk here, but infinite leverage. Does that make sense? So does that help answer that question, Bill?
Yeah, so let's go just a tiny bit deeper though. So you got your finding the files, the lead gen, then you got like the maintenance and the follow-up that needs to take place. But what about like, maybe I'm thinking in terms of like the people, or like, I loved what you said earlier about, hey, I wasn't the right person to service this. Like, a lot of us, especially new agents, they get that, oh, I'm an investor and I want to buy, and half the time the people are, not serious, or they don't know what they want, or they're not experienced, or they're working with 10 agents at a time. Like, they want you to drive all over town. How do you determine who meets the standard of who you get to work with, or who gets to work with you?
So at, where I'm at, it's a little different. So for me, it's got to be a buyer north of $2 million, right? And a listing north of $1.5 million. And I have to know them previously, or they have to be referred in from a very good friend, right? That's the only business that I work on right now.
Let's assume you were a brand new agent and
Okay.
That's just totally, that's a different world altogether, right?
Oh.
You're like, oh, maybe a rental over here, or hey, this investor wants to look out in Tequila or whatever, or here's a commercial opportunity. Like, how do you make sense of everything?
Whenever I started, just throwing this out there, and I don't know, I mean, you'll have to kind of weave this one into, Mets and not Mets, but on a simple fact, at the very beginning, for the first 3 years off of that team, I had one rule. If you're not ready to buy or sell a piece of real estate in the next 7 to 10 days, I'm throwing you in the trash. That was it. I couldn't afford to follow up with people, guys. I couldn't afford, right, to do a monthly call schedule, because guess what? I needed cash right now. So that's all I did. I would call all day long. I was making 50 to 60 contacts a day until I found someone that had an event in their life and had a high level of motivation. And I got in my car and I went there and listed the property. And that was it. So my one rule for the first 3 years. Now, do I miss all of that data that I collected now knowing what I know about, long-term follow-up campaigns, stuff like that? Yes. But I had one rule, and that was, if someone's not ready to transact in 7 to 10 days, I have to move on to the next one. Now, if I got to 4 or 5 people that were ready to do something in 7 to 10 days, and I got them under contract, then I could go 50% 7 to 10 days, 50% 30 to 60 days, because then those pipelines would marry. But to start as a brand new agent, you are looking for people to say yes right now. And those sources are expireds. They're going to be withdrawals. They're going to be just listed, just sold, right? Because if you're new and your database isn't mature, it takes a couple of years to get that database mature and aware of who you are and what you're doing. Then your fastest cash is going to be expireds, withdrawals, and just listed, just sold. Oh, and for sale by owners, sorry.
And I just want to say, those who are in bold, the task was 20 contacts a day. Dustin just said 50 to 60 a day. You hear the difference? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, guys, humor me. I was 23, right? I was dating a girl. I had a dog, and I was renting a house. Like, I didn't really have a whole lot of problems, other than trying to, like, I had to make one closing a month to pay for like 2 months worth of bills. So, keep that in context. I've learned over the years to keep it in context. I know that there's a lot of people on this call that has families, kids, other obligations. I know it's not just as easy to do that. But for me, it was simple. I didn't have any money, and I didn't have anything else to do. And I wasn't going to let anything get in the way of my big thinking and my big goals. So I would call until 9 o'clock at night. Now, again, TCPA, DNC, check with Bill and Candace on calling that late, but I would dial on my way home. I would dial on my way into work, right? I would have a list of numbers I was obsessed. There's another book I'll give everyone. It's called Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt.
Yep. I've read that. The quality shows up in the quantity, right? There are people out there today that do not have the advice of a great realtor, who are, without you reaching out to them, will make poor real estate decisions. And if you call enough people, you'll find them.
100%.
So what if you're not a numbers guy? What if you don't like the phone? What if, counter that?
Okay. I used to think in a prior life, I would tell you this is probably not the business for you. All right. However, I will tell you, if you're not a phone person, there are different methods. I know that there's one guy out in the Midwest. He has a 60-person team. He has a team. If somebody comes in and they won't call, first of all, it's probably not their job in the first place. They probably won't get the job, but there's also different selling mediums. So they do have a social media team. And so if you're not willing to make a call, then you have to get online and you have to start, and you have to have 100 Facebook conversations a day. And that was the number that would lead to 24 deals a year. 100 Facebook conversations a day. You don't want to make a call? Great. Go on Facebook and start 100 conversations a day, and that will lead to 24 deals a year. And it worked, right? They tracked the numbers. But again, guys, it's coming down to the numbers.
So 100 conversations, with most of which almost certainly are strangers.
Correct.
I love your line earlier. I wrote it down, and it's probably not going to, it's already on my 411 just to take some more time to process. Like, your dreams were bigger than your problems.
Oh yeah, guys, problems are always going to happen. There's a book by Ray Dalio called Principles. What a fabulous book. And in fact, I would actually recommend you get the kids' color book. It is awesome. I mean, the visuals are, Bill, if you don't have it in your PC office, I got to get it for you. Oh, has he got it?
Of course.
Oh, look at it. Yes.
Look at me.
Look at that, guys. That's right. Yeah. It's just shared collective thought. That's all it is, right? And so what he talks about in life is that we set these goals and then we hit it. And in order to get those goals, we have setbacks, we have breakthroughs, right? We have letdowns, we have trials and tribulations. We have all these things that happen. And then you set another goal and you hit it. And you have the setbacks, the breakthroughs, and the problems. And then you set another goal and you hit it. And then after a while, you realize that if life has a constant of goals, and every goal comes with a problem, a setback, and a success, then why are we here? And what he came back to was, it's not about the problems, the successes, or the goals. It's about the people that you go on the journey with. The only variable that changes in life are people that go on your journey with you. That's it. Everyone's coming into, coming out of, or in the middle of a crisis somewhere in their life or in their companies. It's all about the people that are on the journey with.
How do you know? Okay, last question then. If you got a minute, maybe we can open it up to.
Yeah, I'd love to open it up. And again, I don't want to take up too much time, guys. I want to make sure that I'm being sensitive to y'all's time.
Okay, so we're recording this. If you need to drop off, you can watch it later. how do you recognize, okay, it's a two-parter. Number one is, how do you recognize the future leaders, right? How do you identify the people who you see huge potential in, or you want to give an opportunity to? And kind of as a piggyback on that question is, how do the people on this call or the people listening begin to set themselves up to exhibit those, traits?
So first things first, it starts with the vision, right? So any group, right, has to have a vision, and those individuals that are interested in being a part of that vision have to all mend via culture. The culture is built through the hiring process, but I'll tell you what I mean by that. The very first statement that we make when anyone is interested in joining our company is that if you're interested in coming to a team, which is our team, right? If you were talking about our team, if you're interested in coming to our team and you simply want a role to go out and sell houses and make commissions, this is not an organization for you. We are grooming leaders. If you're still in the same role within 12 months, do you see yourself being in the same role for 12 months? And the answer is yes. It's not the organization. So everyone, right, our buyer specialist, our listing specialist, our operations manager, our transaction worker, everyone has an expectation to grow in the organization. And the reason for that is because I'm bringing more opportunities to those people in the organizations, and I'm going to have more needs for bigger leaders in different organizations. So I've got to build a massive leadership funnel for these other organizations. Now, what does that mean for them? That means equity earnout in the new companies. So we just brought on a new CEO of the new venture that we started. He's got equity earnout. So for every $500,000 in profit he generates, he gets 2.5% of ownership. Ownership, guys. That's ownership, not employee, not agent on our team. You're just here to make us money. No, that's not it. Ownership. Because if we're not helping others achieve massive lives by design, then I'm failing, because my life by design is massive.
Mm-hmm.
They always say a funny joke. You know who the friend of a billionaire is, right? A millionaire. Because they're the person that's standing next to the billionaire, and the billionaire goes, yeah, I'm not really going to do this company. Hey, Bob, you want it? Are you handing me a $20 million company? Yeah, I just don't have time for that. Like, yeah, whatever. I mean, you think about that. So in our organization, the first trait that we look for is leadership. We look for the person that is putting pressure on our existing leadership team. Are you going to push the team?
So what about the agent who kind of walks in? This is a different environment that they're used to. Maybe they've been entrepreneurs in the past, or maybe they've been in a corporate setting, or maybe this is one of their first, professional opportunities. What would you say, many of us, I'm reading the book Blink right now. Like we sometimes have a tendency to make very, very fast decisions, right? Somebody can walk in the room and I can tell you in a minute whether I think that person, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I'm not saying that's my final answer, but many times we make very snap decisions on somebody based on how they speak, or how they communicate, or what they're wearing, or what topics they bring up, or what questions they ask. Like, what advice could you give to the group here so that they can be positioning themselves for opportunities like that in the future?
I would say find the people that you want to be just like and tell them. Get in their world, right? Books, guys, learning, I mean, I made it very clear when I came to the organization with Andy that I wanted to be in the rooms he was in. I was very crystal clear about it. I know how to sell real estate. I know how to grow a team. Well, at the time I didn't. I do now. But it was about the rooms. And so find that person, or if you can't reach that person, or they've passed away and they're in a book, find that book. Guys, if you do it long enough, you will become it. Yeah. If you read a book on CEOs, eventually you'll become a CEO. If you
Well,
read
you are
a
a
book,
CEO.
oh, absolutely, 100%.
Maybe,
You're
maybe
awesome.
your organization talks to 10 people a week about real estate, but that's your organization. You're in charge of it.
That's right. Michael, you're a CEO. Ryan, you're a CEO. Tracy, you're a CEO. Lorinda, you're a CEO. Markia, you are a CEO. Jenny, CEO. Kathy, CEO. Melissa, CEO, right? Lakira, CEO. You're all CEOs of your own life. Start acting like it.
All right. Well, I want to give everyone an opportunity to ask some questions, but if it wasn't Q&A time, I would just close the room up because that's the mic drop moment right there. Right? Stop acting like you're not the CEO.
You are.
That's right. Okay, first of all, I just want to express my gratitude for you being on the call today and sharing your wisdom and being an open book. I think you were an incredible fit for Keller Williams culture, and that's a big deal to me. Who has some questions for Dustin?
I have one.
Okay.
When you were talking about, I mean, I know that we have a lot of scripts, conversations, whatever you want to call it, for things like expireds, withdrawals, for sale by owners. But what you're talking about is just calling so many people, tons of people. Like, what are you saying, or what would you say to people that you don't know and you don't have any idea if they're interested in real estate or anything else? Like, how does that go?
When do you plan on moving?
Someone answers the phone and you say, "Hi, I'm Dustin. When do you plan on moving?"
Seem to get pretty direct, right? I mean, it depends on where you're at, but ideally that's what we're looking for. We try to make it more complicated than it is. Hi, my name is Dustin, right? I'm with Team Kimberley Real Estate Group, and we're a local real estate company here in the area. And I was calling to see, when do you plan on moving?
Now,
Okay.
just to set the stage, that's a FSBO, that's an expired, that's a circle dial. What is that? Or it doesn't make a difference.
It does. I mean, ultimately, that's all we're after, guys. We're data collectors, and what we do with that data is ultimately up to us. But if we don't know when they plan on moving, we can't do anything else. So if they plan on moving in 4 years, are they a lead, Ryan?
Well, the backroom lead, but yes, eventually, but not immediately. And there's someone to keep in touch with.
Until your goals are above 100 a year, a 4-year lead, unless it's a database. You see what I'm saying? It's the establish of cash right now, the stability level of your business. If you look at the pyramid, the very first level is survival. You're there to generate cash, okay? Once you get your group, once you get your team, once you get your individual lifestyle to the ability past survival and cash, then you can focus on those 2 or 3 year leads. That makes sense. But what if you never get there?
Yeah, I just heard this morning on a podcast, and I've heard this before, but they say between 85 and 87% of newly licensed agents will be out of the business in 2 years.
It's getting harder. I'll tell you that. Does that help though, Ryan?
Yeah, I guess that's the hard, I mean, I understand if people, if they are expired, which are like, they've shown an intention to move, but people you don't have any idea, you just have numbers for, like, that's the hard part. Like, you can't, but that makes sense. Hey, when do you plan on moving, or have you thought about moving? And just trying to figure out how to open that conversation, because there's definitely people I want to talk to, and it's just, you feel like, what do I say that's just to start that conversation and to get the right answer?
Hi, my name is Ryan, local realtor. I sell
Mhm.
real estate in your area. I'm looking for more business. I was calling to see, when do you plan on moving?
And if you don't get them on the phone, is that the kind of a voicemail you leave too, do you think?
I never left voicemail, so I don't know what y'all's take on that is. I would leave voicemails for FSBOs, but not for expireds and withdrawals, and definitely not for just listed, just sold. But there's a different school of thought out there. Everybody's a little different.
Yeah, I always left messages for those that I knew, and I would generally not leave messages for those that I did not know.
Yeah.
Unless it was a message like, hey, it's Bill Linkwald with Keller Williams. I have a quick question about your house. Call me at 678-361-6083. And then that would create some type of, oh my gosh, is something wrong with my house? And I'd get a lot more calls back than when I was like, well, my coach told me to call some expired listings today, and I see that your home came off the market, and I was just curious, when is the right time that you're going to hire the agent or whatever, right? They're never going to call back for that.
No. However, I did hear this from Logan. Is it Lance Logan? I don't
Lance
know.
Loken, yeah.
Yeah. Well, who's the guy who looks like a cowboy? Him and Jason Abrams. It was Lance, right? Or no, Cody. Okay,
yeah.
He had a Sly broadcast that went out every morning to all the expireds that said, hi, my name's Cody. You know, I just wanted to leave you a voicemail this morning. I'm not going to be any of those. I mean, your house did expire, but listen, you're going to get a ton of phone calls from a bunch of realtors that are just trying to cold call you. That's not us. But if you want to sell your house, call us and we can help. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
What
I've heard similar approaches. It's like, look, you and I both know why your home didn't sell. So I'm going to come over this afternoon and we're going to talk about how to get that thing right back on the market.
Yep.
And I'm going to get you to where you want to go.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And you just become the guy that's not like the others.
Or girl. We got ladies.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ryan, thank you for that question. It's oftentimes what we're really talking about, Ryan, is fear of rejection. You're afraid that it's so direct that they're going to say no faster, when in fact, that's what you should be looking for. When do you plan on moving? Never. Okay, great. Well, if you were to never move, where would you go next?
Yeah, but they're going to laugh.
True. That's it. Like you try to make things more complicated than they need to be.
They're not.
Right.
You know, and oftentimes when we're overthinking it, it's too complicated.
I will say I like that approach because it breaks the ice to me. Like when Ryan was sitting there looking and talking about the question and Dustin the answer he gave her, my aha was, hey, if they're laughing, they break the ice. So that's another kind of foot in the door to, you know, make another comment, which could make a connection.
100%.
But here's the other thing to remember, Lorenda. We're not trying to get our foot in the door. We're trying to find someone to say yes. We're not trying to be friends with these people. My goodness, right? Like, we are going to piss a lot of people off. Just get there, guys. Get it in your head. But you know what? The one yes is all you're after. That one person that you're going to be able to help. You have no idea the dozens and dozens of people that have sat right across from me at closing tables in years prior and said, I'm glad you would never leave us alone. This is the best experience of our life. Right? Stop trying to be everyone's friend, Ryan, Lorenda, right? Just get after it. Rejection hurts. It's not easy, but I can tell you the life by design that you're building from it, it's worth it.
Yeah, it goes back
Can I
to
ask a
what
question?
you said at the very beginning. Your dreams were bigger than, or your vision was bigger than your problems.
Yeah.
Kathy, yes.
When it comes to expireds, what would you recommend? Like somebody that just expired, or would you go back a couple of, months or even a couple of years and deal with those expireds? And I'm asking that because I guess, not I guess, but somebody who is just expired off of the market, maybe they're, you don't want to piss them off.
If everybody wants to write this down.
Oh, they're already pissed off.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if everybody wants to write this down, I want to give everybody something here. All right. So number one, write new expires. Number two, number two, I want you to write old, or no, I'm sorry. That's in the 9 o'clock hour. I'm sorry. New expireds. Then from there, after that, I want you to write new withdrawals. And then from there, I want you to write old expireds, old withdrawals, first sell by owners, database. That was my call diet. So that was the order of which I called my sources every day, and I called all of them every day. Now, some days I called 3 sources, some days I called 2, but my goal was to call all 5 sources to create an all-weather type of company.
Okay.
Right? Why do we call new expireds first? Well, they're the hottest. Great conversion rate. Let's get them out. But realistically, depending on where you're calling, you should only have, Atlanta's a little bigger, but if you get geographically specific to around you, you might have 10, 15, 20. If you go all of Atlanta, there might be 70 or 80. Okay, it's probably a lot less right now than it's ever been. Withdrawals. Okay, new withdrawals. Figure out why they pulled it off the market. Did they not like their agent, or did their plans change? If their plans changed, can you help them with those plans? All right. Then I go to old expireds and old withdrawals, because that's going to take longer time. The hit rate's going to be lower, but they're going to be less defensive because they haven't gotten a call. That could be 30-day expireds. I typically have found that the heat typically goes off around month 4. People stop calling. It's actually a nice warm call. Then you do the same thing with old withdrawals. And I kind of clump expireds and withdrawals. They're kind of similar. You know, they got out of a relationship with an agent, either way. Then I would move to.
I'm sorry. No, I'm fixed on your new expires. What would be what would be so different that, that is something I've come across. What are you going to do differently than my other agent did, and the house just expired and we didn't, whatever it was, but it obviously they didn't get a sale.
Well,
So
my question to you, Kathy, is what specifically did your agent not do that you think they should have done?
I understand.
Right, because person A may want one level of service or one type of marketing and whatever, and person 2 might have a totally different impression of what a real estate agent's supposed to do, and they may have been burned in a different way, right? So you got to ask them directly.
That's right. Yeah, you got to ask them. And here's the thing, guys, we're selling a car here. I'm going to give you an analogy. We're selling a car. Bill's selling a Lexus, and I'm selling an Acura. Okay. Now, Kathy, if you want to buy a Lexus, can I, as the Acura dealership, give you a Lexus? Probably not.
Not unless it's used.
But let's say I only sold Acuras, no used anything else. Acuras. Could I sell you a Lexus? Yes or no?
No.
Could Bill sell you a Lexus? Yes or no?
Yes.
So if somebody is on the other side of that call and you say, what did your agent, if your agent would have done something specifically, what would that have looked like? And they say, well, I wanted them to have a team of 19. And you're an individual agent. Are they asking for a product that you can't provide? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
But move on to the next call, because that's the beauty about real estate, is that we can move on to the next call. We try to make something out of nothing. You follow me?
Right. If they say,
Absolutely.
hey, I wanted an open house every single, weekday. Well, I'm not interested in doing that. So I may as well stop this right now.
That's exactly right. Well, we wanted more open houses. Well, and so do I. So listen, I think you're going to do a great job. I hope you find an agent. Have a great day. Click.
It's an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. Sometimes we hang on to these lousy leads forever because we're afraid to go ask somebody when they want to move is.
Guys, they're not eggs. You can't sit on them and hatch. Like they're just not. Until you get to that 20 to 24 deal a year mark, you should be continually. Now, this is with the exception of your database, guys, with the exception of your database. All right. Because I actually treated my database this way. It didn't work out so well. Just saying. All right. But with the exception of the database, any new stranger in your world, if they are not ready to buy or sell in the next 7 to 10 days, and you may expand that to 30 if you'd like to, but the level of the amount of time that you're willing to keep a lead is a dictation of what your goals will be for the year. So if you tell me that you're not ready to do something within 7 to 10 days, if you tell me how long you're willing to hang on to a lead, I can tell you what your production is going to be next year.
I have a question.
Yes.
What CRM or database do you use for your contacts to keep up with everything? Are you have an outside database for you and your team?
We have this really incredible database that we use. It costs a whole lot of zero, and it's called Command, and it is incredible. Use the tools that you have, guys. It's free.
What else?
Does that help answer your question, Arkia?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Lead with revenue, right? When you're When you're making a ton of money, then you get into different rooms. The rooms talk about what systems they're using and tools and resources and technology. And then you can weigh whether one is better than the other. Right now, it's kind of like my attitude. I've kind of taken, I haven't gotten talked to lately about this, but I haven't been the biggest supporter of focusing too much on smart plans, because you need contacts. You don't need smart plans, you need contacts, right? And
Right.
we'll get to the smart plans. You'll get to the, CRM that can, make breakfast for you. Today, you need to worry about contacts. Make
That's
sense?
exactly right. And you can't worry about anything past the contacts until you have the paychecks. And once the paychecks stack up, then you can worry about contacts and conversions and 45, 60, 90-day pipelines, right? But if we don't get past the cash generation phase, guys, we're never going to make it to the next level. Warren Buffett used to say, still does, number 1 rule, stay in business. Number 2 rule, see number 1. You can't do anything for anyone unless you stay in business. So until you get to a place where you can be in business and focus on those longer term opportunities, you've got to generate enough cash to be able to stay in business.
Yeah, it's like, just try it for one day. Go make so many phone calls until you find the 7 to 10 day guy. And at the end of the day, not only will you probably have a 7 to 10 guy or woman, but you'll also have an insane amount of confidence.
Insane amount of contacts.
Confidence and contacts.
Oh, yeah, confidence too. And you will walk away. Let's say you guys just decided you're going to call 50 expires and you aren't going to stop. I will put my right foot on it that you will have a paycheck in 30 days. It's 100% guaranteed, guys. You talk to 50 expires and have conversations with them, there will be a commission check out of that. There's no question about it. But we don't do it. Why?
I just thought, I was like, hey, this is Bill Linkwald with Keller Williams, and my coach told me to read this script, but you know what? That's probably what all the realtors do. So let's get together.
Right, exactly. Or this is one of my
favorites. Straight to the chase.
This is one of my favorites, right? Hi, Ryan. This is Dustin over at Keller Williams. Yes, I'm cold calling you, and no, I know you're not going to be meeting with me, and you're probably going to yell and hang up. So I'm just going to go ahead and hang up now. Click. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. Do that 100 times in a day. I guarantee you that you will achieve more success in the future. Even someone on that call will call you back and say, I wasn't going to hang up. I need to sell my house. Can you come out?
I bet you'll add more people to your database that way.
So whatever you're thinking in your head, why don't you go ahead and just tell the person on the other side of the phone that? Just get it out there. Hi, my name's Ryan. I don't really, you're going to yell and hang at me. Yeah, I'm a realtor. So I'm just going to hang up. At least you're in control of it,
I can't wait to tell that story at some point. Wow.
No, but do you see what I'm saying? It makes a lot more sense that way. Hey, hi, my name's Kathy. I'm really nervous about the call. Yes, I'm a realtor. Yeah, so just, do you want to hang up or should I hang up? Okay, me first. Someone's going to call you back.
It's just a total mind shift, right? We think we're like the only way that we can think, like, Kathy, can I toe the line with you? Maybe stick my foot in my mouth?
Oh God, go ahead.
In some ways, I think you're asking that question to give you an excuse to not call a certain segment of people that you should be calling, right? You're hoping Dustin would say, yeah, the 2-week-old expireds are better. So yeah, don't call the first ones. And you're like, oh, I don't have to call the first ones. Just call them. That's like, is it better to call cold call in the morning or the afternoon or at night? Or is it okay if I call them at 5:45?
Just do it.
Just do it. You're looking for somebody to validate your insecurity.
Well, and you're also doing something called analysis by paralysis. It's a form of distraction. It's called creative avoidance behavior.
Man,
So
you guys are good.
Here's an exercise. If I gave you guys all one tip to be successful today to ensure your success, if you were to do it, it would come up with a commission check. Would you want to know about that?
Yep.
Walk out of your front door if you live in a house or find the closest neighborhood If you live in a house, walk out of your house and go right or left, and don't stop door knocking till 5 o'clock. Don't take any paper. Don't take anything. Just go. And by the end of the day, you will have a listing. Guaranteed. That takes no money. That takes no gas. That takes no calls. That takes nothing but your 2 legs. Now, if there is someone disabled on this, I apologize for that. Maybe a wheelchair. Just saying, I don't know. Just want to be, comprehensive. I want to be politically correct here, but you guys get my point. It's right in front of you. The question, are you going to do it? Is the pain of rejection bigger than your fear of not having success?
Are your problems bigger than your dreams, or are your dreams bigger than your problems?
Ooh, love that.
Well, it's your line.
Oh, well, I guess that's why I like it.
Dustin, I'm super grateful for you being here today. I respect your time and your extra time. We'd love to have you back at some point, maybe after the
Please.
holidays. And I'm just grateful that you're very transparent and you're a huge thinker. And I've already written down a couple of book recommendations. I've got a couple of notes here myself. So I just appreciate your commitment to KW's culture and to pouring into all the agents
Well,
that.
and I'd like to have a big shout out to you and Candace, guys. It takes really, really special people to do what they do. They do. I mean, I'm not that person. I'm being very clear, right? I have leaders in my organization that have these personalities, but I will tell you the hearts that Bill and Candace has, make no mistake, right? Someone with the skill level of Bill and Candace could go out and sell houses and make $300,000 or $400,000 a year and not care about anybody else but themselves. They could. But they spend day in and day out, right, on these calls with you guys, trying to pour into you to find that one aha moment that might impact you and your family and your lives. They play therapist sometimes. They play business coach sometimes, right? It is an act of kindness and selflessness. And so I got to have everyone unmute their phones and give a big round of applause for both Bill and Candace right now, because they deserve it.
Right back at you.
Likewise, yeah.
Yes,
It's
thank
huge,
you
guys.
so much, you guys. And Dustin, I'd love it if you wanted to get us all together with your suitcase of $321,000 and just hand them out as we make calls. I mean, that'd be okay. I could use some money.
I already invested in 2 other companies. So, I've already invested capital in other places. Who knows? We're looking for leaders for those organizations. So anybody wants to talk about that, we're always open to talking about more opportunity.
All right,
What
guys.
I love about this morning is that Dustin is every word out of your mouth is abundance thinking and the opposite of scarcity thinking.
Yeah.
So if you ever are in a place where you're like, well, I can't do that because, just come back and listen to this. Listen to what abundant thinking looks like. I gave away $3 million and I gave away a contract for 184 apartments. That's not scarcity thinking because I wanted to learn more. That's abundant thinking. So, and every time I hear somebody go, well, I've got a commercial client, I'm like, go talk to one of our commercial brokers. Unless you're going to get in that world and mentor, just
Sure. Hand it off, give it away.
Hand it off.
Give everything away until you find the one thing that you can do all by yourself, and then do it. And then give everything away until you can find the one thing that you can do by yourself, and then do it. And then do that and do that and do that and do that. And when you have that cash, then you can go be a commercial agent, or then you can be a luxury agent. So a mentor of mine once told me, I'll leave you guys with this. A mentor of mine once told me, he said, Dustin, is it a problem and stressful when you have no commission checks? Yes or no? And I'm like, yes. He said, and is it stressful when you have a lot of closings and commission checks? I said, yeah. He said, so if the problems and the stress aren't going to change, do you want to be the one without commission checks or with commission checks?
Yeah.
I said, I guess I'll take the commission checks. He goes, okay, all right, get to work.
I love that. I've heard a concept like that similarly. Success is challenging, right? And it's stressful. So, but having money is stressful, and not having money is stressful, which is the same concept. So, again, thank you, Dustin. Thank you, team. Thank you, Candace. Y'all have a wonderful day. Happy holidays.
Bye, guys.
Merry Christmas, Dustin. Merry Christmas to anybody who's not going to be on tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.